Guys are here. I know that a couple months ago we've been talking about the Vietnam era and their 50-year anniversary, which I don't know if you celebrate it or you just remember it, but just make sure we honor them that served our country during that horrible time of life in our country. Today I'm going to discuss information about Agent Orange. In the past, veterans was considered a disability for having Agent Orange. In the new technology they have now, Agent Orange has been recognized as not a disease. Agent Orange is actually the chemical that causes a disease. So when a veteran comes to see me, I'm not trying to be a smart aleck, but I'm trying to narrow down this conversation to ask you what the problem is. Everything is not caused by Agent Orange because they were in Vietnam. But number one thing is we got to verify how you was exposed. It's not limited to just being in Vietnam. There's multiple ways you could have been exposed to it. And that runs into a problem, especially for my airmen and my sailors, because then they got to confirm how they were exposed. And I can work with them on an individual basis. But I will share this today. If you look at that first sheet, there's about 13 different items there, 13, 14 items of diseases caused by Agent Orange. Basically, if you have one boot on the ground in Vietnam, hopping around, they're confirmed your exposure. As long as we got proof you was there. Most of the time, the DD-14 is going to tell you that. Now, why is this important? One, the veteran gets service-connected condition for that, which is a VA check, non-taxable. Two, they get treatment through the VA Medical Center for if they have one of these diseases. Three, if they die because of it, their spouse gets some benefits. It's only $1,200 a month, but it's better than nothing, and it's still tax-free. Don't want you to die for it because you worth more than $1,200 a month. Number one. Number two, as you look at this, the percentage is not based off the fact you was in Vietnam. And what I mean by that is, veteran, Vietnam had lung cancer. Doesn't have lung cancer, but he had lung cancer, or she had lung cancer. They were in Vietnam and they had lung cancer. They got 100% while they were doing therapy for their lung cancer. Once the lung cancer is cured, they're alive, they're doing well, then the lung condition is based off how good or bad that person breathes. To make that simply stated, how many of y'all got cars? Everybody got a car? Most of us got cars have air pressure in it, right? Air pressure is based off of PSI, pressure per square inch. Well, lung cancer, I don't know what I did. It's based off of FEV levels, and I did not give y'all that. I'll get that to you later. Let's go with something different. The lung cancer is based off the airflow, and I had to go back and print that because I didn't print that one out. But I did print the one out for diabetes. Some people know that if you live in America and you don't eat properly, you don't diet properly, you don't exercise properly, you can get diabetes. Example, I got twin brothers, both went to the Army. Mom and dad were both diabetic. One brother went to Vietnam. The other brother went to Germany. Both brothers have diabetes. The one that went to Germany had diabetes, heart condition, and prostate cancer. Because he was not exposed to Agent Orange in Vietnam, he couldn't get any benefits. He was dying quickly. His brother, the other twin who went to Vietnam, got $264 a month for diabetes.
You're going to have to tell him.
He did not get benefits for being in Vietnam. He got benefits for the exposure to Agent Orange and having diabetes. He's 20% service connected. If you look at that diabetes chart, which is like the third one back in their paper, it'll say 7913 on top, 7913 diabetes. There's a misdemeanor about that. 7913 diabetes. If you're a diabetic, caused by the chemical exposure of Vietnam, Agent Orange, they'll give you disability for it. Now, if you don't get any treatment, you're not taking any treatment, it may be 0%, but you still be a diabetic. But if your treatment is based off your diet only, they'll give you 10. If your disability for having diabetes, the treatment you're getting for diabetes is some kind of medicine, and your diet, they'll give you 20%. The problem is most veterans are taking the medicine, then they go to insulin, and they think they should be raised. That is not true. If you look at the 20% level, it says requiring insulin and restricted diet or hygienic agent. Meaning if you're taking a medicine, a pill, or some juice or something to fix your diabetes, it's still 20%. So if you're taking a shot or whatever, they still be at 20. Everybody comes to me and say, hey, I should be raised because now I'm taking an injection. But that's not the way that rule works. To get to 40, and if they look at the VA decision letter, it's one term that's different than 20 to 40. It says regulation of activities. If you look at it, it says required insulin, restricted diet, and regulation of activities. If your doctor says you no longer can go outside, go up steps, run around and play with the grandkids, go around and play with the kids, because of your diabetes, then they can raise it to 40. Anybody don't understand that? Very plain and simple. It sucks, but that's just the way that rule is raised. Now, what I don't have on there is the secondary conditions from diabetes. There's a couple things I'm not going to discuss because we're on camera and we got women in here, but there's some other complications come with diabetes that affect a lot of our men. Then you have the complications of neuropathy, which is numbness in your hands, your feet, your legs, your arms, due to your diabetes. Now, if you have the neuropathy first, before you have the diabetes, it may not be due to diabetes because you had the neuropathy first. You can't put the cart before the horse. But if you had the diabetes first and you take metformin, it causes problems with neuropathy. It causes the blood flow and all that stuff in your body to slow down, which causes you to have the dumbness stuff. So that's one of those issues where you can secondary. If you look at the very first page where it talks about that soldier in Vietnam, Agent Orange sheet, there's a thing there called acute, subacute peripheral neuropathy. Now, on that sheet, it gives us an idea that she can get neuropathy due to being in Vietnam. The answer is yes, you can. Only if you look in the little small print, you have the condition within 1 year of leaving your exposure. In other words, 1 year leaving Vietnam. How many of us go to the doctor when we come back from combat? We might go to a bar. I mean, some of them, but if you didn't get really seriously injured, but most of us going to a bar, going to a girl's house, mom and dad's house, somewhere, we ain't going in out of the doctor to verify why I got numbers. None of us really did that. I mean, in the military. So it's kind of hard to get that approved. But I can backdoor the system if your diabetes causes your neuropathy. All you can do is get a doctor to confirm. First, you got to have a problem, then a doctor confirms it. All right, because there's multiple choices. And the reason I want y'all to know this, so that if y'all see somebody out there, you don't have to answer the question, just tell them to come see me. I'll go with them one-on-one. Because everybody's condition can be different. Any question on diabetes? I can't remember the next one was.
Requiring more than one daily injection, restricted diet, regulation of activity.
The next one is
Ischemic heart disease.
ischemic heart disease. All right.
Acidosis.
Ischemic heart disease is basically a blockage. If you know a veteran that had a stent, bypass surgery, heart attack, and it's due to lack of blood flow, they consider it ischemic heart disease. Now, if they got a pacemaker, I have not been able to get anybody approved for disability for agent on exposure for having a pacemaker or having arterial fibrillation. If they got nerve problems affecting their heart bladder, I haven't been able to see that. I have not seen them get approved. Doesn't mean it hasn't been approved. I just haven't seen it. But I know if they have a blockage, a stent put in their leg, up in their arteries because of their heart, I've gotten those approved. If you want to help the veterans, if you have a major medical problem, heart disease, diabetes, prostate cancer, lung cancer, some of those terms, go put your name on the list so they can have one more person that has a problem. So we can be more people showing proof we have it. So until more veterans come down with issues like renal cancer, bladder cancer, it's probably not going to thyroid cancer, stuff that comes through the body, and get that regulated. We're not going to have them ever going to get service connected. Now, I wasn't in Vietnam during the Vietnam era because I was born in '69. The war was over by the time I was 6. However, I don't understand how a chemical can go in your person's body and affect all the organs except for the part that comes out of the body. It does not make sense to me. I'm not a doctor, I'm not a scientist. But just in my common sense, I can't see Mr. Leslie being exposed to Agent Orange. It affects his heart, it went in his skin, he drank it in his water, he ate it in his food, and somehow the food and the water water came out of his body, but the Agent Orange didn't. Now, I don't want to have none of that stuff, but I've had a lot of veterans die from renal cancer, bladder cancer, thyroid issues, and to me, that's some kind of substance coming out of your body. I just think it should be something coming out of Agent Orange. That's just my personal opinion. I would say if you think that's an issue that y'all agree with, y'all need to start writing your congressman. Because I've been writing them for years, trying to say, hey, I don't understand this. Give me some scientific truth. But basically, they say the scientific data doesn't support enough veterans who went to Vietnam has had that problem to say it's a Vietnam era. There's Agent Orange issue. Yes,
It stores in body fat for one thing.
okay.
So the skinnier guys had trouble before the fatter guys.
So the veteran should be over 200 pounds.
Yes, be on the heavy side. Like I told them when I was over there, they talked about I was too fat to serve after Vietnam was over with, and I told them I didn't see nobody bitching when I was talking to the helicopter. Because they were skinny and they passed out.
I will say it was much easier hiding behind something being 140 pounds than it was at 220.
Yes, it was. I had to work hard at it.
Any question about the heart? Any question about diabetes? All right, the issue that really a lot of men don't like talking about is prostate. That's why I try to put that last. Prostate is something that you can't see on your body, but you know if you're working one, it will affect you on a regular basis. Daytime and especially at night when you're trying to sleep. Prostate cancer, once you get the diagnosis, and we confirm you was in Vietnam, I know the VA is gonna pay you 100% for 1 year. That's $3,000, about $36,000. Is it worth it? No.
What if your prostate was just swollen? And I took medication for it, and then my breast, chest, very sensitive. I went and had mammograms to see if I had any cancer in my chest. And it came back negative, but it's still sensitive. And they microwaved my prostate and got it back down to where it's working normally now.
For disabilities for the VA,
Yeah,
you got to have the actual diagnosis of prostate cancer.
cancer.
Enlarged
Gotta have
prostate
cancer.
does not mean it's due to Vietnam. However, that's the presumptive condition. If for some reason, in his case, if the doctor said his prostate is enlarged because of his exposure to Agent Orange in Vietnam, and he bagged up with medical scientific proof, then we can get you benefits for it. But the enlargement of the prostate is not a disability.
Oh, yes it is.
In regards to VA, they have no way of compensating you for enlargement of a prostate cancer. The way they pay prostate cancer is based off your aborting dysfunction. Now what that means is you can't control your bladder. If you're not wearing any pads, they might give you 20%. If you look at the sheet where it says aborting dysfunction, it's the last page. Okay, aborting dysfunction is really basically saying do you wear some kind of adult diaper, depends, or something similar to that nature. Very embarrassing to wear, but guess what? It's more of us that's wearing it than you know because the way they design them now, unless you tell somebody they don't know you got it. It's maybe uncomfortable until you get used to it. It was uncomfortable when you kept pulling the diapers off when you were a little kid and went to regular panties or underwear too, but you got used to it. But if you're changing 2 pads a day or less, they'll give you 20% after you've had prostate cancer for being in Vietnam. If you wear 2 to 4 pads per day, they'll pay you 40%. If you wear 4 pads or more, according to this sheet, they'll pay you 60%. Now, let me explain this as simple as I can. I'm not going to watch you change pads. So you don't have to come and prove that to me. You got to be able to explain it to your doctor. If you use the VA Medical Center, they will provide pads for you for free. Do not be embarrassed. It's not for the money. If you got a problem, let's not walk around with wet pants. That's wear pads. It's just more decent. You can change them anytime you need them. But if you change them 3 times in a day and 2 times at night, the VA will pay you 40%. Now, how much is 3 and 2? But in the form it says 4 per day, right? If you said 3 per day, 2 at night, you'll be changing 3 during the day. I had a veteran trying to be smarter than the VA. And not smarter than me, because it don't matter what you get from me. I'll do my part. It's up to you to understand how to do your part. I explained this same route to this veteran 4 years ago. He came back to me after his exam was over and told me what he did. I said, they're going to give you 40%. That ain't right. I did it 5 times a day. I said, did I tell you this? He said, yeah. Okay, then you told him exactly what you do, right? Yeah. I changed 3 a day. I changed 2 at night. Well, they're going to give you 40. Well, that's 5 pads a day. No, it's not. That's 3 pads per day.
They don't care what happens at night.
So if you would have told him what I told you to tell them, which is what you really do, you'd have been okay. If you change them 5 times a day, don't be embarrassed. Tell them 5. They're going to pay you 60%. Now there's an extra rule to that. If the only disability you have caused by being in the military is that you have prostate cancer, then you change 5 pads per day. That gives you 60%, and you have no other medical problem. But that's the only reason you cannot hold a job. They can pay you $3,000 a month for having 60%. But you got one condition at 60, and you're not able to work because of that one condition that's service connected, they'll pay you the full rate. Is it worth the money? Probably not. Depending on your age, you probably like working and staying busy. Because at my age, I can't sit around the house. It would drive my wife nuts. Drive my wife nuts. Now, all this is the presumptive conditions that the VA has said they will approve. Meaning that if you say you got this, I don't care if you was in Vietnam 1 day, 2 years, back and forth 5 times, it does not matter. Had 3 kids over there, whatever. That's not gonna help. That's not. They're gonna pay you. All right. There's a rule out there with Vietnam veterans and Agent Orange issues. If the male veterans over there and they have a child in the first year after they come back, and that child end up having spinal bifida, they'll cover that child. But they only got 1 year to have that child. Now, when we came back from Iraq, they told us not to try to prevent her having sex. They said just don't have kids for the first year. Let your system clear out for at least 1 year. That's what they told us. All right. I don't know what they did for y'all because again, I was just born in '69. All right. They didn't know it was going to affect you or they didn't care. The female veterans who was in Vietnam, they have multiple other medical issues that can be caused. So in the assumption of the VA, if the male has a child, genetically produce a child, then that child has 1 year from the date of birth and there's only one condition that it causes. But for the females, it's a multiple other ones. I can't remember now off the top of my head, but it's some of those. But I haven't seen many Vietnam veterans in the female gender. I just have not seen many. I've seen a lot pre-Vietnam and a lot after Vietnam. Other than the stuff on this list, if your particular primary care doctor treating you for a medical condition, example like thyroid or bladder cancer or arterial fibrillation, any medical problem you have, and your doctor believes it's due to the chemical of Agent Orange, and that doctor writes that case out, we can submit it to the VA for an approval. There's been individual approval stuff that's not on this list. But it's not based off us saying it. It's their doctor saying it. Now, how many of y'all think we can get a VA doctor to say that? I'm not saying they won't, but how many believe they can? Or they will, I'm sorry. I'm 0 for 100 right now, 0 for 99 right now. For anything I wanted to get from the veteran, for the veteran, from a VA doctor that's going to get the veteran some money. More money. Or any money. I just don't do real well there. Maybe it's the way I present myself. But somehow or another I cannot, I get it. I did it once, and that doctor no longer works in Memphis. Can't find it.
Back in 2000, I went in. They tried to give me shoe fed for my back issues. I said, that's for cold. She goes, no, it's not. I go, where did you go to school at? And this was a nurse practitioner.
Well, there's not a doctor, but any questions about anything dealing with Agent Orange or anybody around Agent Orange? I try to get this information out to you guys because I want to make sure y'all know it, y'all can present it to others, in case you run into a veteran who needs it. Again, I see a lot of widows. This week has been, I do not know what happened the last month. It has been an extremely high number of medical incidents where someone's no longer here. So I honor those who don't hear not here anymore, to include, Ms. Pat, coach. You know, they talked about her being the best female coach. I think she's probably the best coach.
All over they
Cause
said
I
that.
can tell you right now, I would not have refereed any of her games. One bad call, she looks over at me,
It's over.
my whistle was done, unless I'm calling in her favor. And she was some kind of rough. She would have been a great drill instructor in any practice service, one up there. And all the girls can attest to it, and Eric ran out because she was a really good person, a real good coach.
Did y'all see yesterday morning on,
Yes, sir.
Not on the age, just like, when I got back to Vietnam, I was diagnosed with Vanco's tumor. Okay, and that's the only way I could figure it out to be the respiratory cancer. Right, but what they did is they removed a portion of my lung. And you know, I got a percentage on that, but the whole point, what I'm saying is, I never had it, you know, actually called respiratory, it's called Vanco's tumor, but, you know, it's.
If they say it's due to being in service or due to being in Vietnam, it's still the same result.
Okay.
Because anything that happens on active duty and it still affects you now, it's just like a workman complaint. You can claim it, you ain't gotta blame it on it. In your case, you don't have to blame it on it. It's just service connected. Anybody else have any questions? Again, thank y'all so much for what y'all do for the veterans and the family members here. Thank y'all for your patience with me. This week, I have not been on schedule this week at all. If anybody called since last Tuesday, they probably have not received a phone call back yet. Since Tuesday, because Wednesday we went to the nursing home, had a marvelous time. Those who missed it, I'm sorry. Only thing that was really kind of scary is on the way back, this kid was driving past us. The traffic was jammed up because somebody was painting the road, and he almost hit the ditch. Now, whether he was smoking a joint, drinking a Bud Light, texting, whatever,
Food was good.
the food was good. They fed us a special meal because I know some
Well,
people
they
there.
didn't feed us.
But when
We had that.
We had food left over, but
really,
the ladies that went with me, Mr. Frank, Ms. Thompson, had a great time, got a chance to tour the area.
Are you hinting
I am
you're
going to
scared me?
suggest
That's right.
that we bring the lady over, Miss Mary Shaw, bring her over so she can tell y'all
right, yeah.
about the facility and what's to offer.
She is
um,
wonderful.
One of the things I noticed, and I didn't catch it before until I listened to her class, was sometimes we think as loved ones we can be the best for them. Sometimes our loved ones don't necessarily need us directly. They need companionship across the board. And that's 142 beds in that place. And y'all know how we are right now.
And they were full, weren't they?
Imagine 130 of us in one area
Oh my God.
lying to each other. I mean, everybody's gonna lie to each other about how bad boot camp was. What do you mean in 1950, 1940? Everybody had the worst war stories, and they just constantly,
Just open the door and it'll run out.
yeah, they just backdoor each other over again. And for the men, if you go there and you haven't been having that attention from women, you go there, you will get it. And vice versa, the women that go there, you have a lot of men. They do not lock their doors because of fire hazard. So you're open and available to anybody, but it's consensual. But they are adults. They just have the teenage hormones.
Yes, they do.
Very high teenage.
One
That's the
little-
only place that the barber shop or the beauty shop is never closed. They constantly keep that place going. And they keep getting their physical therapy so they can maintain their energy they need to achieve those goals they have. So I just want to share that with you. It was great to be over there, and I'm sure the ladies went over to get family.
But they got 340 employees to take care of all these people. It's amazing.
Yeah.
And the cook was the cook for Clinton, I think, wasn't
It was
it?
Clinton, it was Clinton's cook.
Excellent cook.
Yeah.
And the nice thing about it, it's not what you envision as nursing home, because all these guys are dressed. They are out of their beds, they are functioning, or they're off in the corner sleeping, but mainly they are functioning. And they keep stimulating them. And when we walked in that place the other day, it smelled so good. You could smell cookies or something cooking there. It smelled good, and the corridors are wide. Everything is open and airy and pleasant. So it was. They was having a birthday party for a 93-year-old World War II vet, and that man was sharp as a tack. It was amazing,
They cook for them, they clean for them.
and their food looked good.
They just constantly have entertainment for them. Just a great opportunity for us to go and share with them. And they just fell on people. They're just people that cannot be left at home anymore. They need to be around other people for their safety. And It was pretty good. I had a veteran that was there, he was 95 when I met him, and he was just knowing that he didn't want to be there anymore. Every so often, he's like, why they keep me here? But most time he was just a pleasant man. And not an old man, because he was 95 and looked like he was 65. He was a good looking man.
That guy did too, you know?
I ran into a young lady over there, I say young lady, she was our age or a little younger, attractive lady, and I said, you in here? She said, no, I'm over here visiting my daddy. He is that 92-year-old that turned 93, I believe.
Probably.
Little short fella.
Couldn't, well, he was.
She said, when I first put him over here, said I was worried about him, said, and I wanted to go come back the next week to see him, and I come over here unannounced, and he wasn't even here. He was out on a trip with him, done went on a trip. She said, now when I come to see him, I had to call and make an appointment, make sure he's gonna be here.
But they did tell us they allow alcohol, they allow smoking. They don't restrict your life, man, you're 90.
Yeah,
Why am I telling you at 90 years old, you can't have a cigarette at this stage of your life?
exactly.
So what, you got COPD, lung cancer, just as long as it don't hit the canister, we're good. And it's not gonna affect the cancer unless the cancer has a leak. So you can smoke all you want around it, as long as they got a leak. So they let them smoke, joke, drink, play cards. They don't let them gamble much. They do let them go to Tunica, and they give them $50 to $100. They don't like to have too much money, they don't get robbed. But they do that quite often. So again, thank y'all for all y'all do. I'm gonna go pick the bed up today and get it to Savannah, so if anybody needs it before the guys in Savannah needs it, let me know. And I'm gonna also try to pick up 2 wheelchairs, because the state home needed 2 wheelchairs, motorized ones. So if anybody else knows anybody who got one, I need to pick up 2 by the next week.
Them 3 that we picked up, none of them worked, but William's working on them, trying to get them going. So
Okay.
if he does, he'll let us know.
So are we still collecting those? I mean, we hadn't put a stop on them,
No.
because I couldn't look at them back there.
No.
I have one, I'm not sure what's wrong with it, it doesn't have batteries is all I'm assuming.
Okay.
It belonged to my brother's brother, he passed away.
All right.
Wilson too,
How long ago?
2 years.
That might be still for charity.
It's,
Yeah.
battery, it's already got a built-in battery charger.
Just needs a new battery.
I'm assuming,
We don't
All
know.
right, I tell you what, if you would, just bring it up here and drop it off on the porch.
Yeah.
And I'll pick it up or get William to pick it up and let him check it out and charge it up and see if it works.
I need to be down there, I don't.
Yeah. Yeah.
Again, thank y'all so much. I'm gonna get out of here and get on the phone. And if anybody needs help, I'm trying my best to help all I can.